I'm grateful to have secured a supermajority of our council team to begin the immediate steps toward reopening a downtown police station. So we have a motion that will be coming to our upcoming executive committee that calls for an update to the work that I initially started as a member of council. About 10 years ago, I worked alongside Councillor Drew Farrell to address some of the downtown safety issues that we were experiencing, including the Beltline. The work that I started with Councillor Farrell back then was soliciting options for reopening a downtown station, because we know that our downtown core is disproportionately impacted as far as violent incidences, social disorder, other issues. And surprisingly, Calgary is now the only major North American city without a downtown station. So we want to get the first steps in place, examine where a police station could go. We want to consult with local business associations, local community associations, as well as the broader nonprofit sector. Certainly, a downtown station is required for a downtown. This is a major campaign commitment of mine, but I also think we have an opportunity to look a little bit bigger, not just being tough on crime, but also tougher on the causes of crime. So it could be a joint use facility working alongside the Calgary Police Service and Police Commission, potentially providing community amenities that were lost with the closure of the Eau Claire Y and the Beltline Pool. So this is very much the first steps. However, we're going to be pushing this with as much urgency as possible. If we can find where the potential locations could go, we can have that in place to ultimately be funded and approved in time for November. So this station will not be built by the end of the year, but I will be challenging my council colleagues as well as the broader community to get moving on this with the same gusto and urgency that we brought to the water main replacement. So my hope is that by the end of this year, we can have broken ground on this facility. Potentially, public-private partnerships are on the table, potentially partnerships with nonprofit associations or even with the provincial and federal government. Again, this is just the very start of that conversation.
What are the benefits perhaps of having, like, we don't have one right now, we have these kind of front counters across the board. What benefits or what differences do you think having a police station in the core will bring?
Well, Calgarians have spoken loudly and said that downtown safety is not where it needs to be. Having these police counters in the middle of the day, it's important outreach, but it's not the 24/7 proactive and visible presence that Calgarians are asking us to deliver. It's also not the best practice of other jurisdictions. We know that Calgary is now the only major North American city without a downtown district office, and having that permanent physical presence will be able to address many of the concerns that Calgarians have. And we're not stopping there. It needs to be in tandem with the prevention work that we're doing upstream around addictions, recovery, treatments, mental health, and housing. So this downtown station, it is not the only piece of the strategy. It's not the magic bullet alone. However, it is an essential tool in the toolkit for us to be able to advance these safety priorities, especially as we're pushing for stronger coordination with Alberta sheriffs, stronger coordination with Calgary Transit peace officers, and so on. So downtown is disproportionately impacted when it comes to social disorder, violent incidents, and having that physical presence downtown is a first needed step for us to be able to actually get ahead of this issue.
Does this direct administration to start that search for potential locations, or how exactly does this approach starting that process?
Sure, so we'll give you the finalized copy of the actual motion, but the motion itself calls for collaboration between the City of Calgary corporately, the Calgary Police Service, the Calgary Police Commission, and the Province of Alberta to examine the feasibility of potential locations. This is an update to the work that was done almost 10 years ago by myself and Councillor Farrell, and it calls for examining city-owned land, city-controlled leases, potential public-private partnerships, and given the strong support from the Premier and Minister Ellis, we believe potentially there could be provincially owned land that could potentially be available. So this isn't presupposing an outcome. Certainly I want the location to be decided in consultation with the community. I would like it to be focused where the data and evidence suggests that it's most needed. Certainly there's a lot of ideas. The original administrative inquiry is largely still valid, so essentially requested a memo for potential locations, and many of those potential locations are still just as valid today. However, the downtown landscape has changed in the past 10 years. The need has only grown far more acute, and we are not going to be able to address Calgary's downtown safety issues without a coordinated response that includes a downtown police station working in cooperation and collaboration with our preventative services in the social sector, including outreach teams.
Are you concerned about additional enforcement in the downtown having a negative impact on Calgary's most vulnerable, and how do you sort of prevent that from happening?
Well, I've been challenging our Calgary Police Commission to enforce the laws as they exist, but also to work in tandem with the resources that we know prevent crime in the long term. As a social sector leader, not-for-profit CEO, having served in the social sector previously, it's very much like a leaky bucket analogy. So what we know is that crime, safety, social disorder, it's akin to a storm happening outside of a house. Water is pouring in because the roof is broken. How much money we spend on the Calgary Police Service is akin to how much money we spend on the buckets. We need to spend just as much as is needed to be able to address the short-term issue, but the long-term issue that actually provides for the dignity that every single Calgarian deserves is to fix the roof. We need to focus on the prevention. We need to focus on upstream mitigations, including addictions, recovery, treatment, and housing. So yes, I do support an enforcement approach, but it's enforcement and upstream prevention. So we have to be tough on crime, but even tougher on the causes of crime. And certainly our council team has supported both. We gave an unprecedented increase in support for the Calgary Police Service as well as the Calgary Fire Department in our previous budget, but we also doubled down and renewed our commitment to support for mental health and addiction strategy, other alternative call response models, alternative response models including community court. So this is one piece. It's a critical piece, but it is not a replacement for what we know works, which is the upstream preventative work.
If we want shovels in the ground by the end of the year, would that require a significant amendment to this year's budget?
So right now we are going through the work of determining FTEs, how many people that are required within the city of Calgary, how much resources, how much capital budget, how many operating dollars are available. So this is very much about inputs to the November four-year plan for council. So an adjustment to this year's capital and operating budget is not anticipated because we'll not have had the opportunity to find a location and potentially go through site remediation or adaptive reuse. But council is fully prepared to fund this as an essential priority for Calgarians. A downtown station is needed now more than ever. It's not the only solution, but it is an incredibly important part of the overall approach that our council is taking. We are taking public safety extremely seriously, and this is a needed part to advance that ultimate aim of Calgary's downtown being as safe as any other neighborhood and community. It comes down to resources. If we are wanting to have a downtown presence, what are we willing to do to be able to support that? And our council team is committed to viewing public safety as essential infrastructure. We will do what it takes to make Calgary's downtown safe, and we will make the challenging decisions that we have to in order to make those priorities come to life through our budget and spending decisions. So, I'm not inclined to rehash previous councils, their decisions. What we know is that here and now, a downtown police station is needed more than ever. And our council has a plan to be able to execute, to be able to get this done. And we need to, not just for public safety's sake, but also for economic development purposes. I speak every single day with businesses who are potentially thinking of coming to Calgary's downtown, and public safety and perceptions of vibrancy are a big issue and frankly an inhibitor for many people who are thinking about investing in our downtown. We know that our office vacancy continues to be very stubborn, and having that public show of confidence in our council, in our downtown, by having that police station prioritized as essential infrastructure will go a long way for economic development purposes, but also to be able to keep Calgary's budget affordable. So having a vibrant downtown, one that's safe, one that's prospering, this is something that actually benefits absolutely every single Calgarian. So even if you don't make it downtown very often, you benefit from having a downtown station, because that allows us to be able to maintain the property values of Calgary's downtown, which ultimately pays into city revenues. And we do not want to be back in a situation like in 2016 and 2017 with the hollowing out of Calgary's downtown, with the office vacancies and that property tax shift that happened during those very difficult years. And this downtown safety initiative is, again, it's dual track. It's both enforcement and compassion. And having this community police station downtown is more than just police. It's potentially a location where we could otherwise provide recreation amenities that have been lost due to the recent closures of the Eau Claire Y and the Beltline Pool.
There's some appetite on council to relocate the drop-in center. Is that potentially a site that the city could look at for a police station downtown?
At this point, I will say that all options are on the table. I don't want to presuppose an outcome. We need to engage closely with the community in terms of what the most appropriate location would look like. Certainly, we're going to be looking at cost effectiveness. It may make the most sense to reuse or convert an existing asset, either city-owned land, provincially owned land, or otherwise publicly leased. I'm not going to presuppose an outcome on that, but what I will say about the drop-in center is that I fully support the move to a more decentralized model. However, completely closing the drop-in center I think would be a big mistake. Right now we know that what's being done there is not working. It's many hundreds more people than what the space was physically designed for. It's frankly not humane, the current conditions, and most of Calgary's most vulnerable populations would agree with that. So I would support for a scaling down of what's provided at that facility, but not a complete winding down. I think just closing it entirely would just move much of the activity out into the public streets rather than what we're currently experiencing inside the building itself. So a decentralized model would ultimately not just be a net zero amount of spaces available, but a net increase in terms of recovery beds, treatment capacity, housing availability. We know that there's a significant bottleneck in terms of the access to mental health, addictions, recovery, treatment, housing, all of these amenities that we need to be able to help our most vulnerable populations get off the streets. So simply just closing the site without a long-term transition plan and bluntly a significant boost in the resources that are available for the whole sector, that is bound to fail. So again, we need to do this thoughtfully. There needs to be sequencing, and there needs to be very close relationships, not just with our law enforcement partners, but with the not-for-profit sector, who will be tasked with taking on more and more of that burden.
Can you just quickly, this is sort of nuts and bolts,
Yep.
can you give us an idea of what a full station offers compared to what's already existing here?
Sure. So I certainly appreciate the work that the Calgary Police Service has done in providing the front counter presence on 6th Avenue. There's also a pilot in the East Village, but it's not visible for the general public. It's not available 24/7, and you do not see the level of visibility from a 24/7 service deployment schedule. So having a visible presence for the Calgary Police Service, but not just the police service, but also many of the other community partners and providers, will go a long way to be able to address some of the perception of safety. It's not enough to know that there might be help somewhere. It's important for our local residents and businesses to know that they have a very specific place that they can go to any day of the week, any hour of the day, in order to get the needed help. And having the service deployments, having the mobility of, say, on bike, in vehicle, or occasionally on horse deployments back and forth actually helps some of the visibility and the presence in the community. And this is really just reinforcing our Calgary Police Service as just that, as a service. We do not go with the same type of police force model as is present in other communities. We know that the police service is there alongside the community that they service, and having those community partners, especially those nonprofits, have a place to be able to operate out of, really will go a long way to sealing the deal on our downtown safety leadership strategy.
The CPS aren't the only ones who could use a new building. There's some fire departments downtown that
Yep.
could also, was out looking into it too, is basically maybe merging, like if you do in our other parts of the city where you have a police station / multiple like emergency services.
Certainly,
all
yeah.
in one.
Yeah, so we have a lot of, we can really save a lot of money by combining a lot of these services. So I certainly would approach this from trying to make this downtown facility as usable for as many people as possible. So it is about, primarily, it will be hopefully a police station. However, there's other opportunities to be able to find recreation benefits, maybe spaces that gang suppression and youth mentorship classes can operate out of, and potentially it could augment some of the fire response capacity for the downtown. So again, this is more of a community hub model, but first and foremost, it will be a downtown police station to the same extent that we see in other jurisdictions. Calgary is the only major city without a downtown station, and having this station reopen in our downtown is an essential first step to making Calgary's downtown as safe as possible, not just for residents, but also for businesses and those people who work downtown.
Gotta go, guys, so one more
Okay.
question.
One more, can I ask go tomorrow? Tomorrow's council meeting?
Yeah, what's up?
Water efficiency plan tomorrow?
Sure.
What's your thoughts on what do you anticipate from this debate on this strategy?
Specifically?
So it is so broad. It is such a broad, I mean, we're seeing folks who have, on this council have called some of these rules draconian. We have other folks who are saying, hey, we just need to fix the leakage and then we're at 20%. So just your thoughts on this overall strategy.
Yeah, on a very high level, what we know is that Calgary is a very big city, and big cities and towns as well rely, just as we do, on two very small rivers. So we are servicing about 2 million people in this region on two very small rivers. So this is an incredible challenge for Calgarians, but also our regional customers in Airdrie, in Chestermere, in Satina, Strathmore, and so on. So for us to continue to be able to grow and to have reliable water service, we need to make some challenging decisions around how we use and how we value water. First and foremost, however, I would certainly push, and I have pushed, council to address the issue of our leaking pipes. So right now we lose about 25% of Calgary's treated water due to the aging nature of our pipes, and part of this is due to some of the cultural and systemic issues that were identified in the independent panel report. But much of it is also some of the historical issues that we address. Part of the reason that the City of Calgary annexed Bowness or Forest Lawn or Mindapore was because of their aging water pipes. So a big reason that you see so many breaks in these localized areas is because Calgary, as of today, is dealing with many of the issues that were made back in the 50s. So from that perspective, I think that Calgary needs to do as much as possible to show Calgarians that we are addressing our internal issues before asking them to adopt any type of mandatory restrictions. So I'll certainly be going in supporting some of my colleagues in making the water scheduling and restrictions purely voluntary outside of emergency or drought situations. So I think it's too far at this point to ask Calgarians to adopt mandatory restrictions without us actually having demonstrated that we've done everything that we can internally within our current network. That said, as the future goes and as climate changes and as snowpack can vary from year to year, we could be in a situation where we're implementing emergency measures. But I don't think at this point it's necessary for us to have those permanent restrictions outside of emergency and drought situations. Look, if the city has done everything that we can to fix the pipes and the leakage, if we've done everything that we can to manage drought and emergencies, and we're still in a point where we're at a critical level in terms of water that's available, I think it's fully justified to ask Calgarians to adopt water schedulings or other restricted measures. But we haven't done the work yet to be able to go to Calgarians and say that we absolutely need this emergency authority every day of the week.